podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our quick publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms, and we have our own apps for Apple and Android. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Welcome to Fatigue Index. This is a semi-regular. I think this is maybe your third or fourth spot on here, the guest this week, Jordan.
Yeah.
Jordan Tyrer. If you follow me on the Twitter, which I'm sure you do, you will have seen a tweet last week that has become very topical this week about international football and Liverpool's 12:30 kickoffs. So yeah. Jordan Tyrer of Twitter fame.
Twitter fame, I'm not sure I like that title. It's the tweet definitely took off a little bit. It was quite interesting. I mean, I can't claim it. I was literally I've been following something. It was Michael Reed. I've got it here in front of me. Michael Reed originally tweeted a graphic that LFC TV had put together from Opta. So it's relevant. It's valid data. I'll say data then. Data and. This was before the Wolves game early in the season, which was our 12th lunchtime kickoff, 12:30 kickoff following the international break. We've then since had the Merseyside derby, and then following this international break, obviously we're going to have the Man City game as well. So the numbers wise, though, this is where it gets a bit interesting. So at the Man City game will be our 14th 12:30 kickoff after an international break, whereas the next team in the list is Spurs with 6. Chelsea with 6, Man United with 5, and then Man City will be up to fit their 5th with our 14th. Then you've got Arsenal with 3, Everton who will now be on 4, and Watford make up the list on 3 as well. So it's not pretty reading, and I think this is why the tweet probably gathered a bit of momentum, because it's quite an ugly stat when you look at it. There's clearly one team is playing these 12:30 kickoffs more than any other team in the league, and that can rub people up the wrong way a little bit. And I think that's what's happened here. Obviously, some opposing fans have liked to throw in some of their opinions, which have been quite funny, and the classic "stop moaning" sort of thing. But the stats don't lie on this. That's serious to have 14 12:30 kickoffs after an international break, which we'll go into the science in a second. We know why that's a potential issue. And then the next teams are on 6, 6, and 5. It's like, that's not fair. Something's clearly awry on that one, and that's where I'll leave it there. Yeah.
So it's interesting that.
Are you that person who has everything, the coolest merch, and those must-have fan threads? Well, over at our Anfield Index shop, we've gone that extra mile when it comes to pimping up your Liverpool collection. From our popular range of bespoke design t-shirts, sweaters, hoodies and hats, to our signature edition mugs, prints and coasters, all provided with fast worldwide shipping. We have something for every red. We also stock official LFC merchandise and are licensed with the Premier League and UEFA to sell official iron-on shirt badges and sleeve patches. As a listener to this podcast, you can get 10% off everything with coupon code AIPRO10. Just head over to AnfieldIndex.shop or find us on Etsy by searching for Anfield Index.
The 12:30 kickoff is the fulcrum of the argument, because other teams get very common 5:30 kickoffs or 8 o'clock kickoffs, and no one's arguing about the volume of those as an impediment. So why do you think it is? A couple of things. Let's go down the angle of first. What is the impediment to a 12:30 kickoff?
Okay, well, straight after an international break. Anyone who's ever been on a long haul flight let's say, and then first and foremost, we know footballers aren't going, Ryanair, EasyJet, standard class. They're going to be going first class. But anyone who's ever been on a long haul flight, regardless of what class you've been in, say to South America, Asia, wherever you're going, you feel groggy after it. You feel rubbish after it. And that's us, standard humans, basically, not highly tuned elite athletes. So now when you add that in to, say, high altitudes, multiple different time zones, and then you start to add in, also we want you to train and play at the highest possible intensity in international football, the pinnacle of football, let's face it, or should be, then that's seriously taxing on the body in that international break. So as we know, international breaks typically like a week and maybe just over, depending on which team and what the schedule might look like. If you're then asking them to fly back, your body's just about got ready, just about got accustomed to the time zone, wherever it might be, South America, Asia. You're then flying back to the UK. Your body's all over the place. Your circadian rhythm is completely out of whack. That just natural cycle that you have in your body throughout a day. You're trying to sleep when you need to be awake. You need to be, awake when you're trying to sleep. And it's just all these things are going wrong. And then straight away, you're coming back in a 12:30 kickoff in, away at Man City sort of thing now, or any other fixture. It's not ideal. And, again, this is where I think the fact that Liverpool have had so many of these kickoffs, if it was evenly distributed, everyone go, it's fine. Because, we had last international break. This team have got the next one, but Liverpool have had every single 12:30 kickoff after an international break this season. I think they had every single one last season as well. I think I saw that. Could be wrong on that, so correct me if I am. But it's not a fair distribution, and that's the problem because I've got a suspected feeling of why these might be happening, and we know that police dictates some 12:30 kickoffs, and I think that might be the case with this Man City one. They moved the kickoff forward. It might have happened as well for the Merseyside derby to try and limit drunken behaviour and all that sort of stuff. But even if you took that factor into account, you shouldn't have a team that's done 14 of these 12:30 kickoffs compared to 6, 5, and 4 and 3 sort of thing. So,
indeed, there's lots to unwrap with that. I'll go forget the science and stuff for a second and go, what is it about Liverpool's fans that need to not be drinking?
Yeah.
Like, do no other fans drink? Liverpool are famous for going around smashing shit up, aren't they? Like, what is it? Why do Liverpool's fans need to be controlled by early kickoffs so they can't have a drink before the game? Like, Tesco's not open selling special brew at 6 a.m.
Yeah.
Like, what? So that's a nonsense. Is it? I think the grand scheme of things, Liverpool are the biggest football club in the world from an Asian following.
Yeah.
So it fits earlier in the day, works with the later time zone in Asia. So a 12 o'clock kickoff will be between 5 and 11 o'clock at night in Asia. So it captures the Asian market, is my belief.
Yeah.
And so it's a money grab from the Premier League. I'm not believing of the conspiracy that they're trying to impede Liverpool in any way. It's just that they're trying to maximize the income, and Liverpool have to suffer to put up with it. Yeah. That would be largely my belief. So let's talk about a little bit of the science of the 12:30 kickoff. There are lots of studies there are lots of like different factors that it can be affected. So let's start with City. That's probably the fairest of all of the opposition we could be playing against. Man City might be the most fair opponent because they have between 4 and 7 players traveling to South America, mostly on the same plane. And so as a consequence of that, they're going to have all of the physiological issues because of the travel and lack of sleep on the way back. But what they're not going to have is extra training time. So I want to categorize these things differently. Yeah. Is that Liverpool's 12:30 kickoffs, say against, we just played Brentford. So I'm just going to use those as an example. If Liverpool played Brentford at 12:30, after an international break, Brentford have got 3 internationals. Liverpool have got 12. So more players can stay to prepare and train for that game from Brentford than from Liverpool. So already automatically that's an advantage. But you have the further away the international plays, the fewer days they have to train when they get back.
Mm-hmm.
So there's the increase in advantage. So if we're not talking science at all here, you're just talking purely football, they have more training days to prepare than Liverpool do. So there's one impediment. Does that would you agree?
Yeah, 100%. And if you think of any team, any player in any team, they will tell you that when you fly after international break, you might be playing in a completely different system. Players might be playing in completely different positions, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So they're learning again, almost mini windows of learning, playing in the international setup. And then they got to come straight back and slot into a squad. So this one's, like you say, with City and most of them being on the same plane, is quite funny that, you're going to have all these South American players who have been playing at completely different altitudes, different time zones, different systems, different positions potentially, coming back in and trying to slot into what was happening before the international break and then go straight into arguably the biggest fixture of the season for both teams, one of the biggest fixtures in the world. So it's like, from a Premier League perspective, it kind of is a bit silly because it's like, you probably want this to be your best fixture. This is your showcase fixture sort of thing.
But is there, so my argument to that would be, I'm not arguing in favour of it in any way. But my argument to the Premier League thing, don't you want the best quality on offer in your production? Which is, that is where your brain would go. Do you not want the best version of this to be transmitted around the world? Is the best version the most technically, tactically prepared, or is it fucking chaos?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, great point, because Man City Chelsea was just carnage and everyone's talking about it still now, and it was, it's one of those that gets more eyes, isn't it? And it's what you want. I think from a football lover's point of view, we would want a technical, proper masterclass, I'm thinking like the Champions League second leg when we went to City and absolutely outplayed them off the park. And Firmino scores a lovely goal to finish it all off. That's the sort of performance you'd want to see. But I think, people would want the spectacle, wouldn't they? They'd want like a 4-3, a mad 3-2, hopefully without any VAR drama, which would be nice for once. But that's probably, what will happen because of the chaos with the international break in between. Chaos is probably a strong word, but still, it doesn't help the situation.
Well, chaos in that it's the players are less prepared. That's also, they literally, the South Americans won't have had a training session with their team. So what happens? So from a football coach's perspective, from a daily life in Premier League football, what does a training session look like match day -1?
Well, you walk through with your team and your starting team. So straight away, that's our goalkeeper out because he's in Brazil. It's your main number 9. Darwin's out because he's in Uruguay. So it's like your main pinnacle points, essentially, that you would have throughout your team, that you would be running certain set plays, you'd be running through certain playing out from the back, then trying to flip it and how the opposition might play out from the back and how you would press in certain directions and stuff like that. Straight away, you're altering that and going, somebody else go and stand in for Darwin, because he's going to be in there, but he's not here at the minute. We're going to play out from the back, but we can't use Alisson. Kelleher probably go and stand in there, or Adrian go and stand in there, and you're going to pretend to be Alisson. So straight away, it's square peg round hole sort of thing. And yes, you could say, these players should understand how to play the systems and yada yada yada. But we all know we're talking fine margins here, fine margins. So, and that can make all the difference between 3 points, a draw and a loss. So straight away, if you've not actually got the players who are going to be playing on Saturday training in your team with walkthroughs, with set pieces, who's picking up who, all that sort of thing, it has a knock-on effect. It does have a knock-on effect, and just from a coach's point of view, it feels a bit off when you're saying, we will have him in tomorrow, we will have him there, or we will, it's just not the same.
What would be the point of having if there's no benefit to having that session pre match day -1 of embedding whatever nuances to the tactical system they want for that game, that for set pieces for the next game, why do it?
Yeah.
Like, it's really important from a head coach's perspective to have that session.
Yeah.
So it must have benefits. And that is what's being removed by particularly by the South Americans and the ridiculous South American travel.
Yeah.
So that's a real world football problem.
Yeah.
What are the physiological demands? Firstly, let's go of...
Hello, I'm here to annoy you. I'm here to annoy you into listening to more of me and more of others on EPL Index. We don't just have the Anfield Index stuff. We've got EPL Index as well, which covers the entirety of the Premier League. And we have 3 podcasts and a whole bunch of really good writing on EPLindex.com. The podcasts are my own Two-Footed podcast, which is every day at 4 p.m., Monday through Friday, covering the whole league. We have A Tad Predictable, hosted by Tadiwa. You know Tadiwa, he does Anfield Index. He presents A Tad Predictable before every Premier League match week. And then Kevin DeVries and his crew on the EPL Roundtable, they're every week after the Premier League match week. So make sure you listen to everything we're doing on EPL Index and follow us there on Twitter at EPL Index. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Travel over more than one time zone. What can you tell us about traveling past more than one time zone?
Cool. Well, like I kind of touched on it earlier, but the minute you go over those time zones, certainly if you're going to South America and things like that, your body, it's out of sync. Your circadian rhythm, like that general thing which kind of tells you to wake up when you don't set an alarm. That's the easiest way to describe it, that the body kind of knows I should be probably waking up now. And then kind of around just after lunch, 2:00, when you just hit that bit of a lull, and then you get that bit of more adrenaline again, and just things start to wake up again. And then the evening comes around and you start to get sleepy again. That's your circadian rhythm. Now, the minute you then throw your time zones out of whack, and when your body has been used to, most days of the year, I should be waking up now, and all of a sudden that's, 3:00 in the afternoon, your body's just out of whack, and it just throws everything off. And we know hormone balances change throughout the day. So typically, men have more testosterone in the evening. So, that hormone which gets us going really helps for performance and things like that typically happens in the evening. So we know, or afternoon, evening, it starts to kick in. So we know 3:00 kickoffs, 5:30 kickoffs, evening games, not games under the lights. That's when we're kind of most at our primed and hyped. All of a sudden, if we've flipped the time zone and that's kicking in at 8:30 in the morning, things are off. So yeah, that's the problem with the time zones. And that is why, even if you're not a highly tuned elite athlete, even if you're just, a businessman or woman flying across the world, when you sit in there trying to concentrate in your morning meeting, but your body thinks it's 11:00 at night, it throws you off, and it's difficult to do that. So now ask them to, run at the speeds we're expecting to run, cover the distances we're expecting to cover, execute, eye of the needle passes, and it's not the same. It's just simple as that. It is a matter of science. It is a matter of fact in that we do know that is the case from a physiological standpoint.
So I've seen, there's a few studies I've seen around. Burgo ran some on the Aussie football team. And so basically, there's a meta-analysis of 13 years worth of data of international teams, and the Australian players that had to travel back and forth, like old school Tim Cahill, or I don't even know who's in their team anymore, but there are usually some lad, I presume is English, that happens to be an Aussie.
Yeah.
That plays for Brighton or something. But their research showed that of all of the international teams, the Australians are the ones that suffer from fatigue and for post-international injuries through their long-distance travel. And their long-distance travel is further than what the stuff that we're talking about. That's why they moved most of their games to Europe for their European players. But they still have to do when in group games and stuff. They still have to play in Asia.
Yeah.
And so we're talking 6 or 7 hours difference. That's 6 time zones. Uruguay's 9.
Yeah.
So we're talking the most extreme versions here, and the ridiculous altitude that Diaz played in the highest football pitch in the world at 2 international breaks ago. And so there are massive consequences to altitude, to playing at altitude as well. So I've seen some other stuff from Orico and from Whoop Band.
Yeah.
And talking about HRV and Matteo, can't remember, some Italian, Altini, who is a HRV specialist, heart rate variability. And so basically how heart rate variability works, it's the relationship between the RSTQ curve, the blip you see on ER.
Yeah.
And you need some variability in your heart, and the less there is, the more fatigued you are, your system is. And so there are lots of consequences to that, but it's one of the markers that we look for in training effects of players. So it's just like your system is a bit dulled. It doesn't have the same level of electricity flying through it for you to jump fast, make decisions quickly. You can be cognitively impaired, all of those things. So the further the higher the number of time zones traveled has an impact on, they think it reduces the amount of sleep by an hour per night, and per hour of sleep reduces HRV by 5%. That's quite a significant change, and that's the science behind if they're traveling over 9 time zones. They're over the course of a week. 9 time zones cost you 9 hours of sleep, and that's a 45% reduction in your HRV. And you get flagged at 20% reduction in HRV. So their systems are just dulled by the travel. There might be more significant changes on one player to another player. We were talking about testosterone levels, which are very real. You might have Darwin's, the bloody caveman, he has insane levels of testosterone, but he also requires that heightened state of arousal to be at his best. And he might be wanting to sleep at 12 o'clock in the day. That's very normal. And then you'll get the Scottish blood of McAllister, and he is fit and fresh in the morning, but the travel kills him. Each player is going to be slightly different, but McAllister from the last international break, not the last one, but the first one, because we have 3 at this time of year because it's fucking ridiculous. They can't get enough money in to make our internationals play stupid friendlies. But Nations League. Yeah. But yeah, after that game, when Matt got he got dragged off at half time because he made a big mistake and he was garbage. He was very obviously impaired by it looked like cloudiness. I get it. Like if you've traveled a lot, you understand what jet lag is.
Yeah.
You just take a millisecond longer to go, oh yeah. Like you sit at the lights and the lights change and you're getting beeped because there's a second delay in your response. And when you're a professional elite level footballer, so many decisions that you have to make are rapid. Mac might not be able to do more kick-ups than Joe James you see on your street who's 17 because he's got mad skills. But what he does have is the ability to access those skills more quickly than anybody you know.
Yeah.
And if you take away the ability to make decisions that quickly and your gross motor at the speed to access the gross motor skills, just a millisecond, you're stumbling over your feet. You've got some big angry grok robbing the ball off you at 9 meters per second, and he's off.
Yeah.
And so that's a very real consequence of that. I like to say that they're dull sensors.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
But yeah, there are so many factors behind this. And the weird thing is I've argued against how bad it actually is having to play at 12:30 as opposed to 3:00, because I'm not sure how bad it is.
Yeah.
But it doesn't make it not unfair.
Yeah. I think you're right. Definitely, I think a 12:30 kickoff when you've been at home all week, or you've recovered from you would never be a 12:30 kickoff if you had a Europa League game. But say you'd had a Carabao Cup game on the Tuesday night, and you get a 12:30 kickoff. I can kind of. I'm like, okay, that's fine. When it's an international break, and it is different. It is different factors entirely, and I think. I really like the way you're saying that sense is dulled thing. If people aren't fully aware of how fast Premier League football is, let alone professional football, then you go League 2, League 1, Championship. Premier League football is the fastest league in the world. We know that from stats. And if you want to, there's a company called Rezel which do some great. Basically, you're in the game.
I've heard that name before. I've heard that name, Rezel.
Yeah,
where?
Yeah, exactly. It's funny that, isn't it? Yeah, virtual reality stuff that Rezel do, and they can pop you in a game. And you saw Sky Sports trying to bring it out a little bit as well. With you had Carragher with the big goggles on, like looking around what players would see in the matches and stuff, and they play it at real time. And it is just like it's like everything's all over the place, right? And people can't appreciate how quick that is when you're in it, And I can't say that because I never played in the Premier League. I never played professional football, but I've stood on the sideline and I've watched Premier League players train, and you go, "Whoa!"
If you just watch, go to a game early and just watch the warm up of a rondo.
Yeah,
it's
scary.
It's absurdly fast.
Yeah,
and a rondo, you have people in front of you the whole time. In a game, they're coming from all directions at all times.
Exactly.
Yeah, it is absurdly fast. So you being able to reduce you increase the reaction time. Just that one physiological change alone will make a significant difference. But I would like to layer on top of the actual footballing difference is that same delayed response in a gross motor skill of controlling a football or passing a football.
Yeah.
If you have half of that delay in your accessing of your semitendinosus at full speed and you're braking, if you brake a thousandth of a second slower than you naturally would have, there's a tear in your hammy. There's a tear in your ACL.
Mm-hmm.
And if you find I like to explain it like everybody's been through this. If you walk down the stairs at night to go get a drink, sometimes you miscount and you think that you're at the bottom, or so you think there's an extra step, and you've hit the bottom already. That feeling there is what happens when you're a little bit tired or you're a little bit overtrained when you're running and you just contract. It's just a subtle contraction of the muscle, but it's a tiny bit late.
Yeah.
Just the tiniest pulse late. Yeah. And that's when catastrophe happens from a muscle perspective, from a knee joint perspective, from an ankle perspective. If you're not able to create the column in the right shape at the right time, at the right speed, that's when you get injuries all over the place.
Yeah.
So there is a very real world injury consequence to increase in injury risk as a consequence of the lack of sleep, of the extra travel.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, we know, and we know that is a fact. We know that's why every football club tracks or is trying to track sleep, track fatigue. There's a reason why we do it. We're not just doing it for the sake of it, because we are trying to prevent these injuries. And you bang on. Like I like the example of if I'm jumping up for a header, for example. If you think of like a worst case scenario when you're mid-air and you get contact. And your usual landing mechanics of a jump and land when you've got no contact, all of a sudden you're in the air, you get contact, it's throwing things out of place. You've got to react in a really difficult situation because you're mid-air. And you've got to do it very quickly because things are happening so quick. A big elbow pushes you, moving sideways, whatever it might be. Your body's then got to completely react, change to how it's going to land. Now, again, if there's that split second delay in how you're landing, and you're landing, let's say your ankles should land here for a nice safe landing and instead it lands there, extra force outside of ankle goes bang, and you're out for, but if it's a grade 3, it's a long old time, couple of months sort of thing. So the split seconds matter in elite football. So and injuries especially. So
there's no surprise that the injury rate per game week is 5% higher on the week recovering from international break.
Yeah.
Just players are less prepared.
Yeah.
Players are more fatigued.
Yeah.
Players have, I'm sure. So Jordan worked for Bournemouth in the Premier League, and he will have had. You've had players off at international break. Those lads, when they go off, they've got whole new staffs. It's better than it was 5 years ago, but you've still got 5 dudes that want to be S&Cs to those lads, that want to show the value of them as S&Cs with those lads, that probably train them in a way that they're, one, at very best, not used to, but 2, probably a little bit harder than you would on days when they might not be tested, let's say, because they arrive at international camp on Sunday or on Monday after games. And if they played on Saturday, you match day +1, you might have a rest day. It might be an active recovery day, but they might show up at international break having travelled and have to train.
Yeah.
Because they have a game 3 days away and they have to prepare for it.
Yeah.
And very often, how I would, categorize this, the higher level of football nation, they like to prove their value in their S&Cs, and they're doing physiological testing on the first day in. Where at the club we would have them stretching, rolling in a pool. They'll be doing sprint tests, which is the opposite. And at one point, Liverpool had 34% of their injuries came from international breaks.
Yeah.
And you can understand why. So on top of all of the travel and the shitty 12:30 kickoffs, you still have to get lads back that have been training with different people.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%.
So there's a big chance that adds to the injury risk. And then, so what we've created here is a hurricane of injury risk.
Yeah, it's just a snowball effect, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah.
Extra effect on top of extra effect. Right. Is there anything we can do to mitigate that? What would you have to mitigate these issues?
Wow, there's loads of things. I think that the international schedule could be one thing. I think you've hit the nail on the head there as well in terms of what happens when they're in the international break. Like you say, it's definitely better than it used to be. But I'm talking all the way down in academy level. Even with under 15s, 14s, 16s, things like that, they're going off to international camps, and you get the, as if you're looking after a group of those players, you get the emails from the practice.
Right, you've got a report. They did 1,800 meters this in the last 2 days. Great, okay. Yeah,
and it's like, okay, cool, but you got it spot on in the bigger nations. Let's just take England for example, because that's what we know. That they're going to have their brand of football. Everyone's got their own brand, their style on football. They want to be, aggressive press, win the ball back early, lots of repeated sprints. So naturally, repeated sprintability is going to be a big thing we're going to look at. We're probably going to want to test that and see where players are. Now, I've been fortunate enough in my career. I've spent a fair amount of time at St George's Park, and you go and use the gym there, where you go in there, and they've got all the leaderboards from the male and female team.
It's their corridor.
Yeah, it's a brilliant place to be, but you see all these leaderboards of testing scores and everything. You see it whenever the England players go to England and St George's Park, you go on their Instagram, go on the FA Instagram, and you'll see them doing 6-second watt bike tests, maybe like max isometric mid-thigh pull tests, whatever it might be, max jump tests, Nordics, all this sort of big high intensity tests sort of stuff, which you bang on. Whereas if it was an international break on that exact day, they'd probably be in a pool having a little really nice light cycle. And
just for reference, all those things that Jordan just named, they all have a massive impact on the CNS, on their HRV that we're talking about. So you're doing isometric mid thigh pulls. That's literally the hardest force you can pull.
Yeah.
The hardest thing
Maximal.
you can do, maximal 6 seconds watt bike, is you putting your balls on the table and somebody setting fire to them, and you've got to ride away from that into a pool for 6 seconds. It's the hardest possible thing that you're putting your body through. It sounds like a short amount of time. It has a huge consequence on the system of the body, and that's usually on a day they should be resting.
Yeah, and they'll probably do that every camp.
So I'd add a layer to this that, say, Virgil van Dijk is going to be slightly different, right? But if you're getting, we're lucky in that we have a lot of very senior professionals, yeah. But you're getting Trent taken to the England team. He's competing his nuts off from the first second he arrives in England camp, because he's desperate to get in the team in a way that he wouldn't be.
Yeah,
for us. He would be managed and they would optimize his performance output during the course of the week. He is doing everything he possibly can to look like the most intense dude. So that's an extra level that's what you're going to get. That's what Brentford are going to get when they have Wemo go away, or like those lads. That's what you get. Those middling level, the ones that aren't captain of their international team, that can just stroll up and they know. If you're not Harry Maguire and you don't know you're going to get picked as soon as you show up, like the level of intensity in their training is off the chart, because you're trying to prove to, these are a whole lot of alphas in a room, and they're trying to prove to the manager, but they're also trying to get themselves up the leaderboard in a way that their club would never have done. You might do some demand testing 2 days a week if you've got no game at the weekend.
Yeah. Not when he just played a game and you got a game in 2 days' time. Yeah, exactly.
So, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So we know, and again, I did say earlier, I mean, I'm no disrespect to the smaller nations, but that's probably not the pinnacle of football. But World Cups, European Championships, the big top competitions, when you've got all your internationals there, that is, like you just said there, backs to the wall. We're going for it. Our sort of mentality. We want to be the best we can be. The intensity's through the roof. It has to be, because it's international football and you want to win for your country. It's the highest honour at the end of the day. So the international breaks aren't, they're not just a nice little walk in the park. We'll go and put our feet up for a bit, do a few rondos, maybe some crossbar challenge, and then we'll go in and we'll rock up and play Brazil at the weekend. It's not that sort of vibe. So,
So to mitigate these, go back to the original question, to mitigate the demands that the costs of this, you have to reduce either international games or have maybe, do we think a more cohesive connection between clubs and national team?
Hello, I'm here to annoy you. I'm here to annoy you into listening to more of me and more of others on EPL Index. We don't just have the Anfield Index stuff. We've got EPL Index as well, which covers the entirety of the Premier League. And we have 3 podcasts and a whole bunch of really good writing on EPLindex.com. The podcasts are my own two-footed podcast, which is every day at 4 p.m, Monday through Friday, covering the whole league. We have A Tad Predictable, hosted by Tadiwa. You know Tadiwa, he does Anfield Index. He presents A Tad Predictable before every Premier League match week. And then Kevin DeVries and his crew on the EPL Roundtable, they're every week after the Premier League match week. So make sure you listen to everything we're doing on EPL Index and follow us there on Twitter at EPL Index. Thank you. Bye-bye.
So they align a little bit better. We saw, I saw Trent and Connor and I don't know, the 3 lads that played yesterday or played on Sunday. They had their own program on Monday, which is new. Yeah, this is new. They weren't doing this 3 years ago. They would have just all been together. So maybe they are getting better all the time, but we're still a ways away from what is optimal for the players.
Yeah, and naturally as well, I think you said it earlier as well, when you go on international camp, the staff there don't know the players. They will have seen them in multiple camps, or they might have known, different clubs. Or they might have worked at the same club previously. But every single player in that room, they will not know in the same way that the staff at the club will. Liverpool's first team, S&C sports scientists, physio, sports therapists, massage therapists, they know the ins and outs of every single player in that squad. They will know when they're having an off day, just probably when they walk in the door.
Yeah, you can see it with a player that when they walk in the door, you can tell somebody. I see it with girls more even that they've just got a squidgy day today. That's just they've got a bit of a slow day, and footballers, male footballers, they have circadian rhythm, but they also, there is definitely some kind of rhythm to their cycle. Yeah. It's longer than a girl's cycle, but there's definitely a cycle in there, and there is training effects that you see in players, but also what international, I'd suggest what international coaches don't have is an understanding of the person as well. Yeah. So at the club, you'd be very much aware of his brother's wife has just had a miscarriage.
Yeah.
And he's been around at his brother's house for 3 days, consoling him. That kind of stuff. Is all likelihood you show up at Argentinian camp and the Argentinian coaches know that your wife is pregnant or she's about to give birth. But there are lots of areas between I've got a perfectly happy life and I'm perfectly ready to train and somebody dying. Yeah. And the international coach would know the big things, but it's the stuff every day that they don't see. Yeah. My daughter, somebody's daughter's doing has just started school and you can't sleep or, those things.
Yeah, 100%. They matter. Anyone who works at a club will tell you that matters, and the person behind the player is a huge, huge factor in performance. And these aren't robots. I hate the way it's starting to become now with...
I don't need a VPN. I've got nothing to hide. This is what I used to tell myself before I hooked up with LibertyShield.com. Not only is my home internet now fully encrypted, but I can now access all the websites I want, whenever I want, and do so from absolutely anywhere. As a Liverpool fan, I love to know I can now watch every match, regardless of whether it's on UK TV or not. My Liberty Shield VPN makes sure nothing is blocked and guarantees me super fast streaming speed throughout that match. You can get connected right now with their software package, which includes a 48-hour no-obligation free trial and instant access to their apps for Apple, Android, Fire TV, PC, Mac, and Android TV. Or go a step further like I have and get one of their pre-configured VPN routers. These small but powerful devices allow you to easily connect every device in your home to VPN, making it the perfect solution for smart TVs, Mag boxes, and games consoles. Visit LibertyShield.com today and use coupon code AIVPN25 to get 25% off at checkout.
Money. It is probably money. TV deals. We're going to play more fixtures. We're going to create just an entire new European competition called the Europa Conference League. Why not? Need more European football in there. Like you said, the Nations League. And it's these aren't robots. These players they're going to break. We're expecting the level to just continue to increase beyond levels that, that's been before. And there is going to become a turning point where players are just going to start breaking down.
And it's not happening. The injury rates are going up year on year.
Yeah.
At the same time as match demands are going up year on year, and the number of days they have. So I talk about it on here all the time. Match day plus 4. The number of those is going down.
Yeah.
Year on year.
Yeah.
And the league. So COVID broke the cycle, the rhythm of an international season.
Yeah.
And it just opened the doors to the money men.
Yeah.
So then okay, so now we don't need a 38-week season.
Yeah.
Let's see if we can sneak a 43-week season, shall we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing that's worrying as well is it's we can do Winter World Cups, well, why don't we do it again? We've done it once, and then
let's stick a World Cup on 3 continents at the same time.
Yeah.
How mental is that?
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. I mean, I mean, even when the European Championships went, we're not hosting it in one country. We're going to do it across basically across Europe. It just makes no sense. It's nonsensical. It is a money grab. Unfortunately, that is modern football. Let's face it, and it's probably only going to get worse before it ever gets better. So there's going to be knock-on effects, and typically it's going to be the players and the managers who are going to face those consequences. So, opposing fans will say, Klopp's moaning again. But in my opinion, there is a reason to moan. So,
well, I read this morning that Noel Gallagher agrees with Klopp. So there you go.
Wow.
That's all you need. If Noel Gallagher agrees with Klopp. And at some point, until he changed his mind, Gary Neville agreed with Klopp. So that's your take home from this, that Klopp is right.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. He's always
really appreciate your time. I'm going to take your whole day. You have to get back on and busy the world, but appreciate it.
No, love it. Thanks for having me on, mate. Much appreciated.
Give me your Twitter, so those people that don't follow you on Twitter already, that they can find you and your
stuff
nonsense.
at Jordan92. That's the best one. You'll see me tweeting loads of stuff, or Xing. I don't know what you call it. Reposting. I don't know what it's called nowadays. But yeah, at Jordan92. That's probably the best one.
Awesome, dude. Appreciate it. Thank you.
I loved it. Speak soon.
We hope you enjoyed listening to this Anfield Index show. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel so future podcasts find their way to your device automatically. There's nothing quite like fan engagement, and we'd love to know what you think of anything discussed on this show. The best way to get in touch is over on our free Discord community, where both podcasters and listeners debate the hottest LFC topics 24/7. Sign up free now at AnfieldIndex.com/Discord. You won't regret it. You can also follow us on Twitter at Anfield Index and find us on Facebook by searching for Anfield Index. Oh, and before you go, we'd love it if you could leave us a 5-star review on your favourite podcast app. It only takes a couple of seconds, and it means the world to the people who create these free shows.
Sports Social Podcast Network.